Yeah, that's not the best probably, but this will still work.
We would have made it work.
We can make it happen. Okay.
I got to think about what I learned last week.
I didn't.
Okay.
Did I learn last week? Yeah, I can figure something out. This is 7. Is this the 7?
This is 7. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you ready?
Sure. I still don't know a lot about NC State, but we're going to talk about them anyway.
Okay. I just got some statistical stuff.
Okay.
Statistical talking might be a problem.
Yeah, I have very minimal notes this week. Like that's it. So.
Okay. Yeah, I have stuff that I just typed. Fortunately, I did it when I was finishing up at work today. Okay, that's rolling. You are ready. I am ready. This is week 7. Okay. We will begin in a 3, a 2. Howdy, boys and girls, and welcome. It is week 7 of the college football season, and therefore week 7 of the 2016 version of the Carla and Crappy Show. Hi, Carla.
Hey, Crappy. Happy early birthday.
Happy early birthday. Yeah, my birthday's tomorrow.
So by the time everybody watches this, his birthday will have been passed. So wish belated birthday wishes.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it is birthday eve. I don't have to work tomorrow. I made a big thing of carbonara, and I've had wine. So it's wine and pasta, and there's an excellent chance that I'm going to fall asleep before the show is over. So just so you guys are aware, if you hear snoring, that's a possibility. But hopefully, Carla, you've been doing this long enough. You can wrap it up, and we'll be good.
I'll throw things at you. I wish I could throw things through the computer screen. It doesn't work that way, does it?
No, it doesn't. I do. And actually, outside of my birthday, this is a fun week. I have Ohio State has a big road test that, of course, we're going to talk about.
Really?
The Indians just made the ALCS, which is a very cool thing.
Oh,
and the Browns will be starting their 13th or 14th quarterback of the season this fall. So thanks
in Nashville.
That's right. God, you get to witness this. I'm sorry. All those Titan fans were expecting to see professional football this weekend, and it is not that.
I'm allowed to say this because I'm a Steelers fan. They're the Titans. They don't expect to see professional football any week.
There was actually
they had a good win last week. That was I will give them that. That was a good win last week, and it's hard not to root for Dick LeBeau having my allegiances with black and gold.
Yes.
I like Malarkey too. So, you want them to do well, but it's just, gosh, it's a claw.
See,
climbing.
My day job forces me to sort of pay attention to the polling that's going on for the presidential election. And there was a thing about asking people in Ohio what they thought about a number of different facets of the presidential election. But they always ask other questions as well. And one of the questions that was asked in a poll that was published late last week, do you think that Ohio State could beat the Browns? And close to 70% of people in this poll said yes, Ohio State could beat the Browns. Probably not likely, but for a half, maybe that actually could be a decent game.
Yeah.
This is awful.
Yeah, after a point, like everybody makes that argument all the time. Like regardless of which team, it's like, oh, this college, Alabama could beat X, right? And it's just not a valid argument because of the years of experience and the difference in size and difference in schemes and all that fun stuff. It's a fun argument to have, but no, it wouldn't happen. But I think you're right. I think they could probably hang with them for a half.
That's of course nothing new. I'm not going to count that as what I learned this last weekend. What did you learn last weekend?
So I didn't watch as much football. Well, it's not true. I watched the same amount of time of football this week or on Saturday. It just happened to be all of the UT Texas A&M game.
Which was 6 or 7 hours. So that would take up a bulk of.
It was 5 hours long. They kicked off at 2:30 Central, And Alabama and Arkansas was done with their first quarter before that game ended. That game didn't end until 7:30, and it was one of those like bizarre things because we were like so involved in that game. I was watching the game with a bunch of UT alum actually, and so we were watching that game, and somebody looked at their phone and was like, "Wait a second, Bama's up 21 already!" like that game started. One of those kinds of things. So they don't have a great pool of things to pull from to say what did I learn from last week, but I learned that, and we're going to talk about Tennessee again this week. I learned that Tennessee's got some mettle. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but man, you just can't count that team out.
Nope.
And I'll hold the rest of that until we start talking about them this week. But yeah, that was an entertaining game but it was like it dragged on all at the same time. It was just very odd.
Okay, what I learned will come from the game that I attended, and that was watching Ohio State and Indiana. And I was a little bit bummed that Michigan State turned out to be not what we thought they would be this season.
Yeah.
But then getting a look at Indiana, at least in terms of what might happen down the line in the Big Ten East, that's actually a decent team, and it's in. Urban saying it's the best defense that we played to that point in the season is a little bit of coach speak, but it's very, very good defense. And that's not the only thing that Ohio State ran into that kind of limited the offense. I know there was some grumbling, but windy as hell, a couple of things going on, but really that's a legit team. And more.
That's also a dig at Oklahoma, isn't it?
A little bit. Just
a little bit.
But yeah, I mean that's a legit team and a more balanced team than they have been in the past. And when Ohio State struggled with them recently, it's been because Indiana just throws the ball a lot and scores and scores and scores and scores. And that's a more balanced offense, and they could cause some of the other teams in the East some trouble as we get deeper into the season. Having said that, we have 3 games to talk about, starting with what is the biggest mystery game for the two of us. This will be NC State at number 3 Clemson. Clemson is favored by 17.5 points. Carla, of course, has done extensive research on North Carolina State and the Wolfpack. What can you tell us about this one?
Oh, great! Thanks for throwing me under the bus.
You're welcome.
No, I was the one. Okay, we'll be clear, like absolutely transparent here. I'm the one that picked this game. That said we need to talk about this game. So I'm going to go out here.
In your defense, we decided on this like 2 hours ago. So
that's true, but still, I looked at this game when I was going through the top 25 and trying to figure out the other 2 games we were talking about. They were easy picks. It's like yep. And then we need what's our third game. And this one was just really intriguing to me. And North Carolina, the NC State, I can't call them North Carolina State, they're NC State, sorry. So NC State played a game last week that they shouldn't have played. I didn't see a lot of football last week, but I did see clips of that game trying to be played, and they should not have played that game on Saturday. Postpone it until Sunday. The conditions were nowhere near playable. Even. I mean, there's standing water on the field. They had to evacuate the stadium, and in fact, the area around the stadium was under a voluntary evacuation at one point because of flash flooding in the area. So with everything we joked about the hurricane last week, a lot of people, and we're still trying to figure out this whole LSU Florida thing, and that I think we're going to be talking about that for the next 6 weeks. But it's just that was a game that should not have been played on Saturday, and I don't understand why it was played. It did favor the Wolfpack, though, because they got the win and they beat Notre Dame. Would they have won that game when the conditions were a little bit more favorable for, I don't know, playing football? I don't know. But okay, so they came away with the win, but they're still, because that game was so sloppy and so, I mean, I think there was like 27 total yards passing in the game. We still could say that NC State is unproven. They haven't played anybody, and their losses to East Carolina, which is a relatively good team, but still, it's East Carolina. Going against a Clemson team here, which if I'm a Clemson fan this week, this is my week to do the "oh God, here we go" moment with Clemson, right? Because you look at all these things on paper, and you're the number 3 team in the country, and you're playing at home. And even the ESPN Gamecast says that Clemson has a 96% chance of winning this game.
Right.
Which means that if I'm a Clemson fan, I'm terrified because this is the perfect situation for Clemsoning. Exactly. The offense found its big plays last week, which is something it hasn't seen all year. They put up big numbers against Boston College. They're a proven team. They're heading into a bye week after this game so that they can then face Florida State in 2 weeks. I mean, are we seeing the pattern here? This is a game that should be a, easy win. We're moving on. Clemson fans, be nervous. This is the week that you have to get over so that you can, go play Florida State to make sure that you win the ACC Coastal outright. Clemson wins this game, but I think NC State keeps it interesting in the first half, just enough to make everybody that's wearing orange and purple sweat a little bit. But I just Deshaun Watson and going up against this defense, I just don't see how Clemson loses. But stranger things have happened in Death Valley. So Clemson fans, be ready. But I think Clemson pulls it out.
Yeah, the thing about the weather and the Notre Dame game is absolutely correct. And I think we actually talked about the comparison when Notre Dame played at Clemson last season, also in the remnants of a hurricane. Although that was a different situation, and then the storm was in a different place, and that just turned out to be kind of a rainy, sloppy day. And what was going on in Raleigh last weekend was not that. It was a legit mess, and it really should have been postponed for a day. And again, as you said, that adds to the mystery. Yes, they beat Notre Dame, although who knows what that means. Even if you take the weather conditions out of it, you could argue that beating Notre Dame is a bigger deal for just kind of beating the brand than actually beating the team this year. And then, what else you got? A win over Wake Forest is a win over Wake Forest. A loss to East Carolina is certainly puzzling. They're good with scoring defense, but against suspect competition at best. They average about 35 points a game. But who knows what that actually means? What I think it means is that while there is always the danger of Clemsoning, and that is there's a reason that word exists. Going into Clemson this weekend, maybe if this game was in Raleigh, and you think and everything else that you talked about going into a bye week for Clemson, the Tigers getting ready for Florida State after that. Then maybe you think, oh wow, this is a legit trap game. But at home, I don't see it. That's Clemson is legit. Number 3 team. They're getting number 1 votes in the AP poll. Ain't going to happen for NC State this time. I think Clemson wins that one and wins handily. The next game is what has turned out to be the team that we are watching this year. It's who knows what's going to happen. Number 1 Alabama at number 9 Tennessee. Alabama's favored by 13. And I'm curious to see what happens with Alabama does with some stepped up competition, whether that's the first half Tennessee or the second half Tennessee. We'll have to figure that out. Carla, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, for the umpteenth straight week in a row, Tennessee managed to dig itself a massive hole and then find a way to climb out of it. It's just one of those things that you just watch this team and it's mind-boggling. Like they lay an egg for a quarter. Now this time it wasn't necessarily the first quarter; it was more the second quarter. Yeah. But still, and I mean, at one point in the fourth quarter, up until that turnover that ended up being the touchback that led to the game-tying touchdown for the Vols. I mean, the game was over. Right. And people were like, okay, yeah, they made a good run at trying to dig themselves out of this hole. And then they actually managed to do it miraculously.
I know I was watching scores during my game and all the other stuff we were doing. And at some point I stopped because Tennessee was getting waxed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and watching the game, I mean, yes, they were getting waxed and they somehow managed to just kind of claw their way back into it. And it wasn't necessarily pretty. It wasn't big flashy plays. They just put some quick drives together and scored points, and then got the, again, lucky. Is this team good, or is it just really good at being lucky? That's a great question at this point, and we're not really sure. But I mean, come on, forcing the fumble at the 2-yard line, having the ball, had the ball gone out of bounds on that play, it would have been A&M ball still. Like, it was just kind of that fluke bounce when they pushed the ball out that it went into the end zone. So again, good or lucky. Maybe it's a little bit of both. But you have to start drawing comparisons with this Tennessee team to the Auburn team that did all this kind of, that was the Kick Six team, right? Mm-hmm. That ended up winning a national championship.
Yep.
Out of this combination of good versus lucky. And I think we're going to put that, whether or not that's the case with this Vols team, we're going to put that to rest this week. Because if there was ever a time for this team to play Alabama, this is it. They're playing it coming off of, yes, they lost last week, but you have to think that a team that nobody gave them a chance against, really. Everyone's like, oh, A&M is the far better team here. And then they dug themselves a hole and everybody thought the game was over. The fact that they pushed that game to double overtime and it was just a bad decision by Josh Dobbs on that throw that ended the game, you've got to think they're coming into this game with confidence. Hey, we hung with A&M, and everybody's saying A&M is the only team that can hang with Alabama. So maybe we've got a shot, especially playing at Neyland. If this game was in Alabama, no way. This would easily be a 14-point Alabama win. Mm-hmm. I still think until somebody tells me to stop picking Alabama, I'm going to pick Alabama, because you watched them last week absolutely dismantle Arkansas, which was a team that was a game we talked about, and we said there's a possibility here that Arkansas could keep this close, at least in the beginning, and that didn't happen. I mean, I looked at that score and I was like, whoa. It was never close. Which, if you're a Vols fan and you were watching the score of that game, you're going, this could be. If Tennessee digs itself a hole this week, it's not climbing out of it. I'm sorry. Right. It's just the way that Alabama is built. That defense is gonna stuff whatever offense Tennessee is able to muster. Josh Dobbs is playing better. Can that offense get past that Alabama defense? Gosh, I don't know, especially if it finds itself down in the double-digit hole. I think this game is close. I'm not sure. I don't know what I feel about that line. Because, again, it depends on how long Tennessee stays engaged in this game. If they decide to take part of a quarter off, it's over. They've got to be playing top level the entire game. I still think Alabama wins, whether it's by, like I said, I can't gauge whether it's going to be a single-digit win or a double-digit win. Really just kind of depends on how well they stay engaged. But, gosh, with what we've learned with Tennessee this year, don't change the channel. I don't care what else is on at 2:30 or 3:30 on Saturday afternoon. Don't change the channel, especially when it gets down into the fourth quarter, because you never know what's going to happen with this team.
Very, very true. The point, as I started looking at this game, I came across stuff about it and started thinking about what has happened with Tennessee. They were struggling with Florida. Second half, Tennessee shows up, and that game changes entirely. They did a similar thing against Georgia, and then you talked extensively about what happened at Texas A&M. Here's the thing, and this is I'm going to go with Alabama, and for the same reason. I think they are clearly the best team in the country, and watching bits and pieces of what they did to Arkansas while I cackled with glee was really impressive. If Tennessee can avoid that pattern, if Tennessee is in the game at halftime, if that's tight, man, this really could be a fun game to watch in the second half, and it could be and actually a tough game to pick, one that I could easily be wrong about. If they follow the pattern that they have, this is not playing Florida, and it's not playing Georgia. If you're down 14 points like they were a week ago against Alabama, if you're down more than that, certainly you're done. You are done. But a tight game at halftime, man, drop what you're doing and watch, because that could be a fun one. And then finally, the game that I'm going to be worked up about until it starts. Number 2, Ohio State at number 8, Wisconsin. Ohio State is favored on the road at night by 10. What do you think?
That line feels high to me. It's just just the first thing. I hadn't checked the line, and when you say the line is 10, that feels high to me, especially with these two teams. So the big takeaway that everybody's taking from last week's game against Indiana was that the Ohio State offense just wasn't quite firing properly. And you were there, and I'm sure you'll talk about this for a little bit. But the question that I had, and this is something that we've talked about quite a bit, was how much of that was Ohio State and how much of that was actually Indiana. For whatever reason, Indiana has given Ohio State's fits for the last several years. And so do I chalk that up to a failure on offense, or just the fact that for whatever reason the Indiana defense seems to baffle this offense on occasion? It just some teams just have another team's number when it comes to those sorts of things, and for whatever reason it just happens to be Indiana for Ohio State. But the defense has played well last week, which I'm sure that you will talk about as well. What's interesting for me on this game is Wisconsin coming off of a bye, and I can't decide whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing for the Badgers, because they've got a young quarterback, and he played for a freshman quarterback, Alex Hornibrook played quite well against Michigan, except for the 3 interceptions. Like, the rest of his game was pretty clean. And Wisconsin was in that game until the fourth quarter. I mean, that was a 7-7 game heading into the fourth quarter. Having the extra preparation, that might be a good thing, but at the same time, you kind of wonder if losing the momentum that Wisconsin had built is going to cause a little bit of chaos, at least in the beginning of this game, as everybody kind of gets their feet back underneath them, playing a team that, this is a hype game, right? It's the ABC, the game day is going to be there. Like, yes, the freshmen played well at the Big House, which was quite the statement. That was an afternoon game after a bye week, heading at home with the spotlight squarely on them. Mm-hmm. Is he ready for that kind of situation? And we just don't know. The other thing that's interesting about this Wisconsin offense is it's not necessarily the ground and pound offense that we're used to seeing from the Badgers. They're mixing it up a little bit more this year. They don't have that signature back anymore. But I think that plays well with the Ohio State defense. I think that sets them. I think the ground and pound, Ohio State can stop that, but also at the same time, the Wisconsin offensive line has always had the stature to be able to sustain the ground and pound, much like Alabama, at times was able to sustain the ground and pound, and
right.
Oklahoma in its heyday and Nebraska in its heyday, like they were all set up kind of the same way. Not necessarily the case this year. I think that supports the Ohio State defense. I think this is going to be a very low scoring game. I really do. I think maybe in the 20s to 30s at most. And I think it's really close in the first half. And then I don't see where Ohio State is going, or where Wisconsin is going to be able to stop the Ohio State offense. I just don't see where that works. I think they're going to give them some problems, but I just don't see them being able to fully shut down that offense. There's just too many weapons between what you've got under center and in the back. I don't see it. I think Ohio State wins. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with a 10-point line though. I think it's going to be 7 points maybe. It wouldn't shock me if this was a 28-21 kind of game. But it's going to be a great game nonetheless, and I'm really glad it's not up against the game we just talked about, because that would have been a heck of a thumb flip. But yeah, I think Ohio State gets it done on the road.
Well, by 8 o'clock, it's possible that Alabama and Tennessee could just be in the third quarter. So
that's also true. Yes, based on the way last week.
Or in overtime number 6. Okay, that's probably not likely.
Well, and if that's the case, I'm going to have a lot of friends who are going to be very heavily
medicated,
inebriated at that point. Yes.
There are a couple things here that Wisconsin has going in its favor, and actually the biggest one isn't necessarily a on the field thing. Camp Randall is a legit tough place to play, and Ohio State. The last time Ohio State has played night games there, 2003, 2010, they lost both. Both of those games were under the previous coach. What's his name? Tressel something. And Urban, it is worth noting, is undefeated since he's been at Ohio State. He's undefeated in true road games, not neutral sites games, and then that streak is I forgot to look it up, 18 or 19 or something like that. But that works in Ohio State's favor. But Camp Randall is a really, really tough place to play. And at night, that becomes even more of a factor. But as you mentioned, that could also increase the pressure on Alex Hornibrook, who will be seeing that for the first time as well. The other thing that Wisconsin has in its favor, the defense I think is legit good. This is a little bit like Michigan or NC State in that you're not really sure exactly about the level of competition. Yes, there's the win against LSU. We've talked about what exactly that means. You're not really sure. But Michigan, which is fourth in the country in scoring offense, Wisconsin held them on the road to 14 points. That's a legit accomplishment. So that's something to think about. As I do consider that, though, I think about Michigan's offense and what it is and what it is not. And it is largely a pro style offense, really heavy on the tight end. And they want to and running football. It is a very different offense. Does not come at you in quite as many directions as urban spread. And the notion that there's a quarterback who can move the ball on the ground does not exist in Michigan's offense. No. So that's something that Wisconsin's going to have to deal with, and I don't think they have to this point of the season. Am I concerned about Wisconsin's offense? No. And that's probably being a little flippant, a little dismissive. But in a good situation, Alex Hornibrook is a game manager. He's not a difference maker. He hasn't been. Three interceptions against Michigan, and Ohio State's defense has more picks so far this season than Michigan's defense does. That's something that Ohio State's defense also scores more than any other defense in the country. That's something for Mr. Hornibrook to think about. And then, as you mentioned, this is not the ground game that you normally see from Wisconsin. The 78th in the country at 160 yards, 161 rushing yards per game. That's not typical for them, and I'm not sure it's a really good spot for them to be in. One possible other thing, I think this is a tougher atmosphere than what Ohio State came into in Oklahoma. And you still wonder, even with that test behind them, it's a conference game and a little bit different situation. So do the youngsters at Ohio State get rattled from that? Maybe. But I don't see. I think Ohio State's offense against Wisconsin's defense is a great matchup that Ohio State will overcome eventually. As you said, that's a pretty tight one. I don't see where Wisconsin gets a whole lot of points against Ohio State's offense. But Wisconsin's good enough. Defense is good enough. That I agree. It's going to be low scoring. If Ohio State covers this, I would be delirious with a 10-point lead, with a 10-point win. But I think tight game that Ohio State is going to come out of Madison and with a win.
I say, let me ask you, how's your kicker?
He's been good so far. Okay. It's special teams. We don't have a guy on the sideline saying the punt is the most important play of football, but the special teams have been solid all the way through. So that's a helpful thing as well. Yeah. That's it. I'm going to go celebrate my birthday, the rest of my birthday eve, and get ready for some fun football this weekend. Carla, what you got?
Just it's odd shooting the show on Tuesday night again. I still feel like I have a whole week in front of me, but no, I'm going to sneak in some peaks of football on Saturday. I'm at it's Bar Camp Nashville weekend. So I'll be manning a booth all day Saturday. Hanging out with 300 of my favorite technology friends here in Nashville, celebrating 10 years BCNX. So it'll be a good weekend for sure. So my phone is going to get a lot of work on Saturday, I'm sure.
As long as it's not a Galaxy Note 7 and doesn't burst into flames, you're going to be.
That's also true. Yes.
Guys, thank you very much for watching. We appreciate you here, and we will see you next year. Carla, thank you.
Thank you. Happy birthday.
I just said see you next year because after tomorrow, it's like a whole other year.
It's a new year for you. Yes, it is.
Oh, man. Okay, guys. Thank you again. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Okay. No, don't save that. Go away.
Yay.
Yay.
That's actually what that buzz was in the middle of the show. That was our marketing coordinator who can't find something on our website. So
okay. Oh yes, I did take tomorrow off, so
awesome.
Go out in the backyard and build a campfire. I'm out there for a while.
That sounds lovely.
Finish my wine.
Yeah, we flipped roles. You're drinking wine and I'm drinking beer.
Dogs and cats living together.
What's happened to us? I got my first email address today that's cfox, and I don't know what to think about it. Through
how many jobs do you have now?
Too many.
You have several. You have several jobs.
Yeah, we're up to 2 part-time and then some freelance stuff. So, but no, the temp job that I was working this summer, they kept me, and just moved me into another department, doing the exact same thing. And so today was technically my first day, because yesterday was the day that we handed things back over to the person that I was filling in for. So we did that transition yesterday, and I went back to HR and refilled out all my paperwork because my name changed. And then got settled into my new desk and everything. And so today was the let's make everything work kind of day. And so I got my email address, and even though my email signature still says Carla Swank Fox, my email is cfox.
Concise?
It is. It's 4 letters. That's good. And I did move up substantially in the alphabet through this writing. So that was a good thing. I no longer have to bring desserts for potlucks at church.
I would not have thought of it that way, but
I'm tired of desserts. I finally get salad. Life is good.
That's a great point.
So there are benefits to moving up in the alphabet, but yeah, it was just kind of like one of those like, whoa, okay, I'm married.
There's still lots of those that you will come across. It took me like almost 2 years before everything was like, so you'll find more.
So that was fun. So I have email. Nothing else works.
Okay.
None of my other logins work yet, but okay, whatever. We'll sort that out tomorrow. So.
I am not doing anything at all with this tomorrow.
Okay. As you shouldn't.
On Thursday, when I'm supposed to be working, I will edit this very quickly and get it uploaded so we can be ready to go on Friday.
Okay, that sounds good.
And I have to freaking work for this game. The Wisconsin game. I volunteered because we're short-staffed. I volunteered for this weekend and next weekend, and I knew what I was going into to ensure that I would have off for the remaining home games of the season. But so this week night game at Wisconsin, next week night game at Penn State. I'm working for them. Now I've got 2 gigantic.
You don't have anything.
I have 2 TVs right here over my desk, and
you'll be fine.
If it's a quiet-ish Saturday night, that's me knocking on them.
Yeah, me too.
I can watch.
I'm knocking for you.
Thank you.
You don't have anything to worry about next week.
I would have said that a couple years ago when I was there, and that game went to overtime. So.
Yeah, I mean they played well last week, but they're not going to be able to stop them. I mean that's the thing.
I know. That is a tough part. It is nice that they have improved a whole bunch. And the game against Maryland was it's actually pretty impressive. So
yeah, it was a nice win. But there's just no way they just don't have the defense right now to be able to stop that kind of offense that Urban's running. So maybe they'll keep it close for a quarter. That would be my hope. Let's not go into the second quarter down 21-0. Like that would be a win in my book.
You don't have to pick
Can we
it
be
yet.
in the ball game when we
Next
get
week.
into the second
We'll
quarter?
pick it next week. We'll pick it next week.
Yeah.
I promise. Okay, I'm going to go burn stuff in the backyard.
Okay, go burn stuff and enjoy your birthday.
Thank you very much. And I will give you a buzz when this is ready to go on Thursday.
Okay, that sounds good. My boss is working from home on Thursday, so I might actually have time to like get it posted on Thursday if you send it.
Sweet.
So.
Sweet.